Hey guys, it's Drib from Rotor Riot, and today I wanted to talk to you about our new product, our first signature flight controller, the Hypetrain Riot Control. Let's just start off with an unboxing here. This is your instruction sheet. The instruction sheet is crucial because you should always refer to it when you are doing your setup. We put a lot of thought into this to break down exactly how you should use each UART for the different things that you're going to connect to it, what all the pads do, and then on the back side, boom, one giant layout reference, because it always sucks when you're doing soldering and you're trying to squint on some small print. So nice and big, easy to read, and if you need more details, a real step-by-step on setting this thing up, check out rotorriot.com/riot control, where you can download a full detailed manual, multiple pages, just lots of good information there. So getting into the actual packaging, got some breakout connectors if you want to use a 4-in-1, because this is capable with a 4-in-1, as you'll see. Your hardware bits, so you've got nylon standoffs, as well as, what are these? These rubber gummies. And that is to go into the corner of the board itself. So this is the board. So the first thing you're going to notice is that we've got the enlarged holes and the rubber gummies, so that you can soft mount the entire board. And then you also see the gyro itself is in this really nice looking case. And that's because the gyro is also soft mounted inside that case. It's on this like bed of gel that keeps the gyro extra isolated from vibrations. And the gyro is actually suspended in that gel. So it's not going anywhere, it's not gonna come loose, it's not gonna flop around. However, if that gyro board is tilted inside that case, you also can't fix it. Now, we want all of our Riot control boards to have a gyro that is perfectly parallel with the board, and here's a good example. You can see how the gyro isn't at an angle from the flight board at all. But let me show you one that we pulled from the factory. Here's a case where the gyro is sitting at a little bit of an angle from the board. And if the angle is really small, you're not gonna notice it. It's not really gonna affect anything. But in this case, it was kind of right on the edge where you might start to notice it or it might affect performance. So we pulled that one from our stock, but if you get one like that, there's a really easy fix that you can do. If you go into the Betaflight or Butterflight configurators, there's a section for board alignment, and you can actually type in the angle that the gyro is offset, and then that will totally write all the calculations. So for example, if the gyro is tilted about 5 degrees forward, nose down, what you could do is just type in -5 for pitch alignment, and it would totally write all your calculations. Super easy fix, but if you're uncomfortable with this or unsure how to do it, reach out to us and we would be happy to replace the board for you and make sure that you get one that is straight. So if you have any questions or issues with the Riot control board or any of our products, make sure to reach out to us at products@rotorriot.com and we'll make sure that you get taken care of. The other thing that's special about this board that you'll see when you go through the diagram is the layout. We put a lot of thought into where all the different pads are placed so that the wires that all pertain to one function are grouped together. So you'll see that all your camera wires are in one row, all your video transmitter wires are in another row. Everything is just meant to be grouped so that you don't have your wires crossing over the board and getting all tangled up with each other. It just makes it really easy to hook everything up, diagnose problems, do repairs. When you open up your quad, you can see where everything is going together and find any problems if you're trying to troubleshoot something. Your connections for the ESC are all in the corner here. So you've got your power, your ground, your signal, and your signal ground. And what's great is it's repeated on both sides, and the signal and signal ground are actual pinholes. So you could put the wire in that pinhole and solder it for a really robust, clean connection. So having that along with the power and ground repeated on both sides means that you can easily mount the board upside down if there's any reason that you want to. And if you don't even feel like soldering up your ESCs, no worries. Like I said, you've got these breakout connectors, because over here is a plug so that you could hook this thing up to a 4-in-1 ESC. So this is fully compatible to be used with a 4-in-1 or as a PDB with individual ESCs, which is what I prefer. So with the grommets installed, I wanted to talk to you guys about how to make sure they're doing the best job possible. So this is the first tip I have for this board, is to not over tighten the grommets. Be careful not to tighten it so much. So you see how squished down that is? You're now sort of defeating the purpose of that grommet in the first place and stressing the rubber material. So what you want to do is actually get it, say, finger tight, and then maybe half a rotation more, so that the grommet is just ever so slightly compressed. And you want that so that it kind of locks the threads in, right? It's under compression, so it's not gonna unthread itself, but not so much so that you've just crushed it and defeated the purpose of it. Of course, like if you don't want to have that many levels of soft mounting, you can just take the grommets out all together and hard mount the board. But again, we found it's really awesome to have the soft mounted board and the gyro, and just gives really clean signal. So to take full advantage of that, just don't over compress your screws when you're mounting the board itself. Moving on to this side over here is where you will solder your battery connector. You see we've got these cool semicircle cutouts, and there's copper on the inside. What you can do is cut the wires really short depending on where your board is, or leave some length. But either way, what I like to do is set the wires kind of inside that semicircle and then run the solder into it so that your wires are coming up, and then you can run it outside of your drone. If you really need it to come out flat, you can set it down like that. But doing it like that is going to give you a really clean solder job and let your wire run naturally as it would for a top mount battery, or maybe if it's a bottom mount battery, you can just flip it over. Just gonna put less stress on the wires. So we've got our LiPo lead attached here. You see we left it really long, but let me grab this over here, which is one of my 6-inch drones that has been running a prototype version of this board for a couple of months now. And you see what I did here is I just cut the lead really short. And so the top plate goes on and the battery can hook around, so you don't have a long unnecessary lead, or leave it long and hook it somewhere, whatever you want. The other thing I want to point out about this build is what I did with the video transmitter wires. If you check our layout, you can see the wiring for your FPV camera is right along the edge here, and in the row just below it is your wiring for your video transmitter. So what you can do is hook up your video transmitter wires and then run them over the board if your video transmitter is mounted in the rear. What I like to do to kind of clean things up a bit is solder your pigtail extra long and wrap it around under the board. So you can see here how that keeps things really clean and neat looking, so nothing is crossing over the top of the board. So you still get all of your video related wires, both for the camera and the transmitter, kind of in one location, but you can kind of give a little bit of a wire tuck there. So moving on to the other side of the board, this is where you're going to be doing your soldering for your receiver. And what I wanted to point out are these pads right here. These are some jumper pads. And what we'd like you to do is use UART 1 for your receiver, and you're gonna need to bridge some of these pads. The reason for this is because S-Bus, which is used by FrSky, is an inverted signal. So different from DSMX, which is used by Spectrum, or CRSF, which is Crossfire, the signal is inverted. So what a lot of flight controllers will do is they'll have one of the UARTs be dedicated to handling an inverted signal. But that means if you're not using S-Bus, that UART just gets wasted. So what we've done is we provided you with some solder pads. So in the middle, you've got your B pad, and then next to it, there's an S-Bus pad, and then the other side, there's a DSM pad. So if you're going to use the S-Bus protocol, solder B and S-Bus together, and if you're gonna use anything else, Spectrum, Crossfire, whatever, solder B and DSM together. So with whichever pads you need bridged connected, you'll hook up the signal wire to either RX1 inverted if you have the S-Bus bridged, or RX1 normal if you have the DSM pad bridged. And then we have your 5-volt and your ground for your receiver, or if you're using one of those weird receivers that needs 3.3 volts, we got you covered over here, but you're just gonna have to jump the wire a bit. Oh, and you know what's really cool? Wait, here, we're gonna plug this in. Okay, remember that really sweet looking gyro case? We put the LEDs right next to it, so when this thing boots up, look at that, like glows. Come on, that's space age stuff right there. So thanks for checking out our Riot Control flight controller. For any more information about it, visit rotorriot.com/Riot Control. Even if you haven't bought one of these yet, check out the manual that we wrote. Like I said, there's a ton of detail put into it, because I think that's the most important part of a flight controller is the documentation, making it easy to use, easy to understand where things connect. As we've been holding our quad camp events and working with our attendees on some of the flight controllers that we've been bringing in and trying to sort through badly worded or unclear instructions, it's one of the biggest frustrations when you're trying to figure out how to get your certain receiver to work on a certain protocol or whatever. So we try to take all the guesswork out for you, and if there's anything that we left out, leave a comment. We'll integrate your feedback and keep the manual updated as new versions of this board come out. Oh, also, on the newest version of the Betaflight configurator, it's really easy to change your boot logo. So a little Easter egg on the Riot Control website, you can download different Rotor Riot themed boot logos and upload them into Betaflight. Store.rotorriot.com if you want to pick up your Riot Control board. I'm Drib. Thanks for hanging out. So you'll see that all your camera wires are on words.